Holland's teenagers practice safe sex. Less than 1% of them get pregnant every year, compared to 6% in England. What role, if any, does sex education play in this apparently impressive statistic?
Holland is very famous for being a liberal country and being a very pragmatic country. And we have to be very pragmatic because we are very many in a very small space. We have to be very pragmatic also because we live under the sea level. And you cannot talk about drowning, you have to do something. So we build dikes. And I think basically that's what says it all. You have a problem and you don't talk too much about it. You solve the problem. We are very solution-focused.
It was just as well. During the sexual revolution of the 1960s, Holland's abortion rate rocketed. It looked like an impossible problem to resolve.
The Christian felt, well, we have to do anything to stop abortion because it was very against their feelings. While the socialists felt we should have equity and accessibility for everyone to the same services. So what they did, instead of ignoring the fact, they tried to combine those two and say, okay, we have to have a good abortion law and we have to do anything to prevent abortion. And one of the ways of doing that is giving good sex education in schools.
The Amsterdam's Lyceum is a traditional Dutch middle-class school. Today, teacher Ruud Winkel is about to move on to the next stage of his biology lesson.
Okay, come on in.
For the camera's benefit, Ruud conducts the class in English.
Hello. We've been talking about sexuality a while ago, actually. There's only one thing that I want to do with you, and it's a little game. And what I want to do is, I've got 10 envelopes. And I've got little cards. And every card has got a question. I just ask a question, I'll give you an example. When I ask you, did you already have sex? And, okay, you can say no, because you think, okay, no. Maybe you think like, I have, but I don't want to say so. Then you say, it's none of your business, you know? Or you say, yes, and it was fantastic, and you want to tell all about it. But you're the one who decides what to say or what not to say. Yeah? We'll just give it a try, we'll see.
It's a game designed to get pupils discussing a range of issues around sexuality.
What to do is try to find someone you feel comfortable with. How did you show?
Just be very nice.
Okay, in what way?
To say, call her every evening.
Yes.
And buy her something for Valentine.
Okay.
That kind of thing, just simple little things.
Okay, and did she do the same?
Well, not at the beginning, but later on she did.
You really had to fight for her, or not?
Yeah.
Would you like to go on a holiday with your boyfriend?
In Holland, students are usually taught about sex and relationships as part of biology or health education, and a majority of them will have received sex education at primary school too.
And do you also, because that's also one of the questions, is it also normal to masturbate when you're married? Do you think that's normal, or do you think you've got a lack of sex?
Yeah, well, that's the point. That could be the point. But I don't know. I don't think it's normal at that point. No.
Doesn't want to answer.
Ruud's approach may be direct, but in Holland it's common for teachers and pupils to enjoy an informal relationship.
Last year I had a... No. Because last year you asked me a lot of questions. You were very open in questioning.
Yeah.
Would you ask the same things to your parents?
Most of them I would. Okay. But maybe not all.
Okay. You said you were going to ask your mom, aren't you?
I feel more comfortable with my mother than with my father.
Okay.
So what's behind Ruud's particular approach to teaching sex education?
I'm very touchy with my kids and I like to play around with them. And sometimes you hear teachers say like, oh, you can't do that because then... And I was like, I'm doing it because it's me. If I can't be like that, I don't want to teach. And I always think that it's sincere what I do, it's honest. And it's got nothing to do with sexuality.
Misschien heel klein beetje, maar...
When I look at this point like in English schools. And I think you're the teacher and you're standing there and the class is sitting the other side and you can't do this. You know, sometimes I give kids a kiss. Kids come up to me and say like, it's my birthday. I say, oh, okay, congratulations, and I give them a kiss. And the teachers would never do that. In England, it's like, no way. But yeah, it's all about being yourself. And would you tell your parents that you had your first sexual experience? Would you tell about your wet dream? Would you tell about I went to bed with my girlfriend or with my boyfriend?
Well, I think I would tell you. Just I don't.
And as a girl, because you have to protect yourself, would you ask your parents like, do you think it's a good idea going to the doctor for the pill?
Yeah.
Because then you also say like, I'm going to have sex.
Yeah.
You know, now that I've heard about AIDS and gonorrhea and, you know, all that other creepy stuff that can, like, really make you not work well, I was like, okay, I'm gonna use a condom anyway, even though it's kind of against God and stuff.
You'll get a condom. So I already said last year that every guy has to try one, because you never know if it's too big, too small, or if it fits. For girls, it's always good to touch one and see how it feels like. What do you think of this sort of having conversations? Is it easy to have a conversation with someone?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
So how much does this open approach reflect what happens in Holland as a whole? And what, if anything, does it contribute to the practice of safe sex?
It's a nice game, eh? Volleyball with a condom.
I think we see sex as a, let's say, normal part in our lives. And I think what we have tried to do to integrate it as a part of our life. It's not that we sit around the table and say, let's talk about sex. I think it's that we want to talk with our children about anything. So we also talk about sex. I think what is crucial in Holland is that we accept young people as sexual beings. We don't deny that they have sexual feelings. It doesn't mean that we say, okay, go out and have sex all the time. Not at all. What you see from international research is that the moment a young person accepts him or herself as a sexual being and thinks, yes, it's okay that I have sex, that has an immediate effect on his or her contraceptive use. If you don't see yourself as a sexual being, or you think it's not okay to have sex because the society thinks it's not okay, my mother thinks it's not okay, my teacher thinks it's not okay, then it's much more difficult to act safely because you feel guilty about yourself or many other things. So you don't use contraceptives then.
This culture of frank talking served to plug a gap when the AIDS scare hit Holland in the 80s and schools began to emphasise safe sex at the expense of relationships education. But in an increasingly multicultural society, not all parents were willing or able to be so explicit with their children.
For some of the cultures, or some kids with a cultural background, it was very difficult to talk about sexuality. For them, coming from a culture in which sexuality is not as openly discussed as in Holland, they were confused as well. And at home they hear, for example, it's not something you should do before marriage. And then when they go out on the street or watch TV or go to school, you get this message like, oh yeah, it's fine, it's good as long as you have safe sex. So they were confused, and by this confusion, they have probably made mistakes or had unsafe sex.
That confusion led to a rise in teenage pregnancies, which peaked in 2002. But here at the Amsterdam Media Centre, as in many other schools across Holland, they're trying to address the issue of safe sex within a broader context of love and relationships, whilst trying to keep the ethnic communities on board.
Nou, het zijn, als jullie zelf denken aan liefde en aan seks, dan wil ik eigenlijk heel graag weten wat je denkt. Hè? Wat zei jij? Nee. Ja, je zei het. Ik hoorde het. Porno. Ja. Dat is het. Porno. Nog iets anders.
Gangbang.
Gangbang. Weet je wat het is?
Ja. Doggystyle.
Doggystyle. Dit zijn allemaal heel erg, heel heftig het meeste, hè?
But what happens at school is not necessarily reinforced at home.
Een paar lieve dingen bij, hè?
Here we use words and stuff, and it was okay, but at home I get a slap.
But not all people understand about those things. When I am at school and the teachers talk to us about sex, I think they understand us more than at home.
I'm not used to that.
You're not used to what?
Boys liking boys. I'm used to boys and girls. Yes.
Where I come from, Curaçao, if you don't just have sex with someone for fun or something, it's more serious there.
In other countries, they think that if they have sex and having kids, that's it. But here, it's about fun and
About fun?
Yes, and kind of stuff like that.
Yes.
It's up to class teacher Karen Stork to address any tensions. But for her, the most important issue is the absolute right of her pupils to receive sex education in order they can make their own individual choices.
I say your parents want you to be like this, but maybe you're like that. So when you feel like that, you can be.
Declining teen pregnancy rates suggest the safe sex message is getting through. But how much can sex education take the credit?
I'm not sure whether you can make a direct connection between sex education in schools and outcomes when it comes to health or risk-taking or high acceptance of contraceptives, where we see that in the first sexual intercourse, young people, like more than 70% of young people, use a condom and a pill. I don't want to relate that directly to what's happening in the school. I think there are very, very many contributing factors where the schools definitely also play a role.
Behind the impressive statistics, there's undoubtedly many factors at play. But in a fast-changing world, can the Dutch afford to stay still?
I think it was easier to address this multi-faith approach in the past. I think now it becomes much more complex. And I think the Dutch are complacent. They said, oh, we have the lowest teenage pregnancy rates in the world. Well done. But if you want to keep quality, you have to reinvest in the support of your teachers. And really start learning from good practices around the world. But I do think that still the spirit of tolerance and pragmatism is there, and that everybody really wants to be able to live together.